The USA team just had their first showcase game against the Canadians, and after a rough start, they were able to take care of business due in large part to the tremendous play off the bench from one Anthony Davis. And it is just downright disrespectful to see a guy like Anthony Davis coming off the bench, especially when he has so much to offer this USA squad. And the California Classic just wrapped up, and there was a number of Laker players who played well during that stretch, including a young Bronny James. What's good, y'all, and welcome to another Lakers Digest video. I'm your host, Okechi Apakama, and before we get into everything we have for you for today's video, guys, I just want to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. For those of you guys who have subscribed to the channel, I appreciate y'all, and I see you. Now, let's hop straight into the topics we have for you today, as Anthony Davis should be starting for Team USA. So, the USA team started their gold medal journey against a pretty solid Canadian team, and while it was a little close in that first half, the USA team was able to pull out in the second half, due in large part to the play of Anthony Davis. Now, the Team USA started a little bit small as they started Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Devin Booker, Jrue Holiday, and Steph Curry. Now, I think the starting lineup is a little finicky because I assumed that Kevin Durant was going to be in the starting lineup, but he is currently injured right now, so that kind of changes things a little bit. But as far as that starting lineup right there, I do have some issues with it just because of what a guy like Anthony Davis can do for you off that bench, because he was tremendous in his first game here. And so look at the stats here for Anthony Davis. He had 10 points, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 2 steals. Just slight work for a guy like AD off the bench. And he was tremendous right next to a guy like Bam Adebayo. Those two guys defensively are defensive monsters. So having them on the court together, I see why Steve Kerr wanted to do that. But if you want to maximize this Team USA roster, you're going to have Anthony Davis in the spot where he should be, and that is starting. Because he can do so much for you, especially on the defensive end. He can switch out to almost any perimeter player out there, and he's a guy that rebounds and just fills up the stat sheet with slocks. So steals and blocks, he gets those frequently, and he gets after it too. He is a person that is willing to do all the dirty work and have everybody else be the scorer, because there is a ton of scoring on this team. You don't need Anthony Davis to be the big 20-point a game scorer that he is for the Los Angeles Lakers. You just need Anthony Davis to be a guy to be a double-digit machine, and then a guy to block shots, rebound, and get some steals. So that is what Anthony Davis can do at a very high level. He has done it at different points in his career, at different modems, and started on that Kentucky team where he was on a very loaded team in college, and then he just resorted to being that high level role player, and that is the role that Anthony Davis can really thrive in as a high level role player, and that's why he should be starting compared to a guy like Joel Embiid. I see why a guy like Steve Kerr would want to go with a Joel Embiid, just because he's a guy that can be a very huge post presence. You mostly have to double team him, and there's not a lot of teams with the requisite size to really bother a guy like Joel Embiid. But if this is a game where speed is going to be indicative, or where you need to switch heavily, or if you just need a guy to keep the offense moving, Anthony Davis is the one for you. I mean, just look at the regular season stats this guy had. Anthony Davis, he had 24 points a game to go along with 12.6 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 2.3 blocks, 1.2 steals, off of 55% shooting from the field. And Team USA is exactly where a guy like Anthony Davis can thrive. Like I said, he can be a very high-level role player, especially when he doesn't have to, or it's not on his onus for him to score at different points in the game. So Anthony Davis should be the one in that starting lineup. I understand why it's a guy like Joel Embiid, and I understand also, even in some points, like bringing him off the bench and having him with Bam Adebayo, because their bench group actually really shined when they had Bam Adebayo next to Anthony Davis, and then also Jason Tatum, who is a great two-way player as well. So all of those guys kind of like mixing and matching defensively. Obviously, this is the first game for the Team USA, so I'll give them time to figure out some of the lineups and, you know, what works best with who. But if Anthony Davis is not starting, if they want to go with this Joel Embiid route, I believe he should be closing these games, because when you get down to it and down into crunch time and when you need stops, there is no other guy in the league that you should trust more than Anthony Davis. Like I said, he can guard 1 through 5 capably. He was switching almost all the coverages out there, and not a lot of guys can get past him, whether it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or one of their bigs, whether it's Kelly Olynyk, just anybody out there that they throw Anthony Davis's way. He is not afraid of a challenge. He will contest anybody when he needs to. So having him in the starting lineup or closing lineup for me, that is the way to go when you have a guy like Anthony Davis. And come on, Team USA is supposed to be fun. There's a lot of things that happen, especially even last night, where we got this great moment of Steph Curry throwing a lob to LeBron James. Like, that is the stuff that you want to see on Team USA. And Anthony Davis, who has been a guy that's played with stars, especially throughout his career, starting in Kentucky and then through those New Orleans days when him and Boogie Cousins was running things, and then now with LeBron James, this guy knows how to play with other stars, knows how to play his role, and knows how to play at a very high level. So hopefully Steve Kerr and them boys, the coaching staff, figure that out and figure out what the best lineups are. But we're going to hop into our next topic, as the California Classic has ended. And while the Laker team went 0-3 in that one, there was some mightily good improvement, mostly from all the Laker players who were either signed to contracts or are going to be on either the Lakers South Bay roster or the Lakers regular roster once the season starts. So there was a lineage of guys, but obviously we're going to start at the one and only Bronny James. So just take a look at the stats here from the most recent game that they've played. And while they did lose to the Heat, there's a number of guys who played well. Dawson Connect had 20 points and would go along with 9 rebounds. Colin Castleton, I'll get to later, but he had 18 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 2 steals. Bronny, the points don't look great, but he had 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. Really showed out defensively. And then Maxwell Lewis, he didn't shoot the ball particularly well the last game, but he had 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. So, for the Lakers, those are some of the stats there for some of their younger guys. But I just want to lament a little bit about a guy like Bronny James, just because I know people are definitely going to look at the stats. It's like, oh man, he had 3 points in this game. It's like, oh, he had 4 points in this game. Bronny James, what he brings to the team is his defensive intensity and what he can do on that side of the ball, because he really showed what he could do on that side. Just take a look at this play from Bronny James and look at him where he just slides his feet correctly and then puts both of his hands on the ball, and he's a strong individual, so he took that steal easily and ripped it. So this is a guy that is capable of doing this at a very high level, and he's showing this very early on, and that is very encouraging to see from a guy like Bronny James, because we know the offense is going to take some time to mature. He still is only 19 years old, so that's probably going to be for where the G League is going to come up big and him be able to grow that offensive game. But defensively, this guy's starting to look ready right now to be a high-level defender, and that is a huge thing to do, because he's a guy that's still obviously going to be growing a little bit. He's, like I said, he's only 19, but he's 6'2", 210. That is a tremendous size to go along with his 6'7" wingspan. So he can already be a high-level defender day one once he starts the NBA season. So that's what I'm really excited to see about a guy like Bronny James. But there is another guy that I truly want to get to, and I don't know if too many people are talking about him, and that is one Colin Castleton. So Colin Castleton had 18 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks, and was a plus 13 in the plus minus department. And that question there at the bottom is my question for all of you guys, really, and is he a guy that should be looked at as the backup center for the Lakers? So last season, the Lakers kind of struggled to find that guy behind Anthony Davis. Christian Wood, while offensively he does have some upside there because he's able to shoot the basketball, but he's not really a defensive center in that way. Yes, he can rebound, but he's not going to block shots at the highest level. He can block shots, but he's not the person to do that at the highest level, especially not when he's out there alone. And Jackson Hayes, while he's a very good rim runner, I love his energy, and I love how he can get off the floor there, especially in a hurry because of his bunnies. He's not a guy also to be a huge interior threat. He's not going to block a ton of shots there. So now we're looking at a guy like Colin Castleton, who spent most of his time with the South Bay Lakers. And just silently, he was having a very nice season with them, as he's a guy that can be a little bit of a hub for them, because he was for the South Bay Lakers. He's a guy that is a very good passer, very good hands, can make shots, make floaters with either hand. So he's got very nice touch around the rim, and he's a guy that blocks shots too. He's not as mobile, obviously, as a guy like Anthony Davis, but he's a guy that can get to spots, and then with his length, because he is a 7-footer, he can block some shots there at a very high rate. And this kind of ponders me to think, like, should the Lakers look at this guy as a backup center option? I mean, he's already on the roster, and then you already have a pretty expensive roster as is, as they're pretty close to that second apron there. So why not take a chance on a guy like Colin Castleton, who's already on your roster, already been kind of in your system, learning the things, and then if they want to go to that AD as a hub type of offense, a guy like Colin Castleton can do some of those things offensively. Offensively, I think this guy is really sound, and he is there as far as an NBA player. He can be a solid backup, like maybe a slightly better Kelly Olynyk, Mason Plumlee type, but he's got some size to him, so he can block some shots, which is very important for a Laker squad. And then rebounding as well. We're a Laker team which they struggled last season when it comes to rebounding. So having another guy in there who can block shots and rebound, and he's got some offensive touch, why not use him as a backup center? So we'll see how he plays in the Vegas Summer League. If he shows out, I think he should make the biggest argument for him being the backup center over some of the guys that we already have on the roster. But that's probably going to be it for this video, guys. Like I said, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. There's about 73% of you guys who are not subscribed to the channel. And if you guys want more of those Laker updates, especially with Vegas Summer League around the corner, you guys want to come right here to Lakers Digest. All right. That's going to be it for this video. I have been your host, Okechi Apakama, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.